It's helpful for the student. So what's important to understand about all of these exams is that first and foremost, they want to make it challenging for you, right? I've already told you how difficult in particular English language arts and reading, but all of them across the board, whether you're doing theater, whether you're doing PE, health, trade, they are meant and written, and a lot of money is spent on both them assessing your abilities, but also being difficult. And so above all, really, they're critical reading exams. And a lot of the strategies that we teach our own students when they take the STAR, to be mindful, to really ask themselves, like, what is this question asking? And so when I tell my students to do a deep dive of the TEKS, it is not in the hope that they memorize them, because nobody ever does that, but that you sort of become more familiar with the particular knowledge, concepts, and skills in each grade level, so that you can more appropriately choose the right answer. Because more often than not, they give you more than one appropriate answer. One is more appropriate than the other. And that's how they tell you. I mean, it's diction, right? It's word choice. They say, which of the following is the most appropriate? Saying most appropriate means they gave you more than one. One is more appropriate than the other based on the specifics. So to be honest with you, when I tutor English language arts and reading, it's sort of easier for me to get that point across from them, because they understand the importance of like word choice, right? Author's purpose, diction, particular word choice that is used. It's part of our craft. It's part of our profession to analyze that. It's part of our TEKS to do it with our students. And so it's something that gives you a leg up as an ELA teacher, because you will need to do that the next time that you take the multiple choice portion of it. Now, for the writing portion of it, for the literary text, there's no preparation more than you practicing analyzing poems, utilizing common figurative language, common metaphoric language, common sort of tricks of the writing trade that poets use, the way in which they use colors to indicate a certain mood or elicit a certain feeling. Or so I like to circumvent a whole bunch of extra work with pointing you to the direction of the AP exams, because your job as an English language arts teacher in 7 through 12, the highest level of teaching you will do is AP English, is those 12th grade AP English. And so that's the highest level of literary analysis that you have to have. And also the level of writing that you need to have. So I like it that because I know they put a lot of money and work into choosing the text, right? So it's like really well done, honestly. And then the children are so brilliant. I'm telling you, I have been a teacher of English language arts and reading for so decades. And the kids every year, I had children, whether they were 7th grade or whether they were 12, because I only taught 7 through 12. They always like just blew my mind. Like, holy shnikes, this kid is brilliant. Like, oh my, they all have genius inside of them. It's, helping them unlock it. And many of them thankfully come to us with it, and we just get to bask in it for a year, and help build it or whatever. But a lot of those amazing kids are an excellent resource to study. They know the figurative and metaphoric language. They know the syntactic tricks, the grammatical tricks that can be done to produce a certain effect in poetry or prose. And so they're the easiest review for us, because the test does a really good job of choosing the texts for us, and then the students knock it out of the park, like really doing a very amazing job of analyzing and reviewing, for those of us that are studying this, what things we should look for, what authors typically do in order to elicit a certain theme or feeling or mood in their readers. So for the literary writing, it really is just you practicing. And how I would practice if I were you is I would go and look up AP release exams, literature release exams. And there's several, because every year they don't just have to write one exam. Those kids that take the AP, they write 3. Only one of them is useful to you. One of them actually takes 2 pieces of text and tells you, find this theme, like identify what is the author doing, what did they come together and do, or where did they differ? Like, are they on the opposite sides,
Yeah.
of the fence? And so, and they have so many years of exams with the text, and also those amazing examples for their rubric, for those of us that are testing for rating, essay rating. So it's a really good practice, a meaningful endeavor for you to analyze those poems before. You don't even have to write the essay. Read the prompt, analyze them, annotate it, look for what's going on, think of what your answer would be. You can even do an outline, right? What I would do if I had to write the essay, which is good practice, because this is just metacognition. This is you sweeping out your neurological pathways for analytical essay writing, right? You and doing, breaking it down, but then going back and looking, what did those other high level, like high achieving students write in those literary response, because those are going to be the cream of the crop and they're the best resource to study. So that's what you do for that particular essay. For the other essay, you have to go in there already with activities, instructional strategies, instructional assignments / activities, such group projects that you can do to help strengthen common student weaknesses. So what they're going to do is give you a text, and you already know there's going to be a weakness, possibly more than one. You do not have to choose more than one. In fact, do not do that, because then you'll have to talk about more than one. Just choose one issue with the student, and then also one strength, right? So I believe it's one strength first, and then one issue. Right. But so you never know what the issue is going to be, but there's not like an infinity list of writing issues, like a pretty short list that we work with. I mean, sometimes the voice is off, and the audience, you misidentified your audience. You are writing a letter to the school board, and you are talking like this is a letter to your homie. Like, it's not going to be effective, So
and honestly, now that you mentioned it, that was one of my writing prompts.
You see, and that could have been very easily, and that is a misidentification of the audience. And when you do that, you misidentify a whole bunch of stuff. Like, how do I need to speak to them? There's a different way that we speak in many different areas of our life. And so misidentification of audience, and therefore misapplication of appropriate voice, is something that hurts the effectiveness of writing commonly over and over and over again. And so there's like a list of 7 high need common mistakes for writers. So it could also be your word choice. We were just talking about word choice and how these test makers actually make a lot of money being particular on the word choice, but diction. So and that goes back to your audience, like making sure that you are choosing the correct words to elicit the correct emotions you want from your audience, the correct understanding, all of that. And a lot of times their word choice diminishes the effectiveness, because it shows that they don't understand the audience that they're speaking to and the appropriate way in which to speak to them. Another very, very common mistake is syntax, right? Syntax is just in layman's terms, grammar, right? Sentence structure, that's syntax. Syntax can be used as a way to weave together amazingness, or it can be short and choppy, and you feel like you're gonna throw up, and it's saying the same thing. Like, I went to my house, I woke up, I ate this, then I this, then I that. And it's like the same sentence structure, the same movement, and it's punctuating, you're not saying anything. And it's so that limiting of diversity in sentence structure creates ineffectual writing as well. So if the student has simplistic, overly short and choppy sentences, if they're utilizing run-ons and there is no grammatical structure whatsoever, that also can diminish the effectiveness of the writing and the overall, like, point of writing is to express a message. And if there's all these problems and I want to throw up after reading it because I'm getting like, like car sick from the short and choppy sentences, then that your message is going to fall to the wayside. And so the way to prepare for that pedagogical one is to already have in mind short and choppy sentences. These are the two best strategies I would use for them. Like, it's even for me as a teacher every year, if I saw short and choppy, if I saw my students were not choosing the right diction words, like their words were just basic, there was no nuance to the vocabulary, there was no voice, there was a particular assignment that I did every single time, and it always worked. It was like the kids were like, oh my God, Miss, can we edit our papers? Because, and I'll tell you what it is. So I would get like just a book, any book. This one here is Frederick Douglass's Narrative Life of Frederick Douglass. So any book that you're reading, any book that they're reading, most novels written today are going to have a plethora of really good words on one page. They choose one page and tell them to create a poem. You can even give them a structure to mimic, and they can only use words from that page to create, and they create amazingness, especially if you give them something good and juicy, like full of good words to work with. Man, they come up and they're like poets since I feel like Shakespeare up in here. And they feel very excited and happy with their work, always when it's someone else's. And then I say, okay, guys, now everybody go to your writing portfolio, take out your first essay. I want you to write a poem using only the words in your first essay. Write me a poem. And undoubtedly, they have not used enough good words that they want to shine with and that they want to use with. So as they're scraping the sides of like chicken nuggets, trying to put together a chicken nugget or something, they're like, can I change a word in my essay? Of course you can. Oh my God, that's the point of writing. It's never finished. Yes, put better words in your essay. I'm gonna do it. And now you know, oh my God, I need to choose my words well. If in the event Miss Sauceda is gonna make me write a poem from my paper, and then I have no good words in there already, but they never even the students are very like, their oral language proficiency is very high. Their vocabulary is very high. It's usually them that ask to rewrite, right? But like, even they are like, this is abhorrent, Miss Sauceda. How can I? There's like 3 good words for me to use, you know? And so they want to add more so they have more to work with. And so that's one of mine that I use every single time. And I don't even have to do much of the work. I just give them and they think it's all fun. Oh, we're making up a nonsensical from a poem. Got these easy words like creative awesomeness. Cool. Now we're going to do it using our own writing. And it's a different story. And we have a conversation about how important it is word choice, right? The words that we choose to force and make people read, right? It should be crafted like a painting, very particularly chosen, like a color and a placement. So that is something that I used in my classroom all the time if I had difficulty with students in diction and word choice, because it really helped them just open their minds. It cleared the fog, like, oh my God, in my own stuff, I'm not even doing this right now. And I would make them think, pair, share. Turn to your partner and talk about your poems that you're writing for yourself, and they'd be like, I don't have anything to say. Do you have anything to say? I don't know. You know, have them talk about it with each other. And so getting them to work with that. But the key to that pedagogical question is to first and foremost make a pretty solid 5 to 7 list of common writing mistakes, 7 through 12. And there's not a whole bunch. There are like a good solid 7 that plague us to the end of the days. And even in college, as I graded college students, it's the same thing. So take those, and then Pinterest, as I tell my students, and I'm sure if you've watched, I haven't asked, but have you watched any of the videos online?
I did. I watched them back in, I think it was May, June. Wait, was it June? No. I watched 8 of them. So, or how many you sent? But one of them I didn't finish. I remember I told you because of the background noise.
Oh yeah, that's right. The back and forth. Yes.
Yeah. So, but pretty much all the other ones, I watched them all, and I'm like, okay, like I did catch my mistakes, and I'm like, oh, I should have done this, or this is what she meant, or this is what the test meant. Like the questions, like, so it was like catching on.
Excellent.
But then, and I'm like, okay, but I overthink myself. Like I overthink about everything. So I stress myself out about everything. And then I'm like, oh God, like maybe I should tackle the middle school one first. Maybe high school is like not the one for me right now. Maybe I should just,
You can do it. You can do it.
I'm
Listen,
like, maybe,
you have to be methodical about it. Be an
yeah,
English teacher about it. So when you get it, identify keywords and phrases, right? In
yeah,
your, like, what are we looking at? Are we talking about oral language proficiency? Are we talking about reading comprehension? Are we talking about writing process? Are
yeah,
we talking about visual representation, media analysis? Like, what are we talking about? What is the goal? And then sort of identifying grade wise, because it matters. We do different things with seventh
mhm,
graders than we do with 12th graders already. We read different things, we have different conversations,
yeah,
but typically it's very much the same because it's English, but different content. But for our students, what is the best for them towards the goal? Like, what would get them to have ownership, agency, practice? Because English language arts and reading, and this is the reason why I started teaching in 2003. And
mhm.
in 2003, they call, and I hated it so much. I like literally got into arguments with people at like meetings at school, but we used to call that English language learners or language learners. We used to call them limited English proficiency. We called them LEP students.
Yes, I remember that.
You remember that? So they're not limited in anything. And it has
Yeah,
always been my experience that my best writers to this day have been language learners. Their vocabulary is like Shakespeare. I'm reading something that was created by somebody who has a PhD, and I feel unworthy to even critique it. My advanced high language learners were phenomenal writers, just crazy out of this world writers. But language learning, whether it's for our language learners, whether learning in addition to their first language, or whether it's native English speakers, many of them have such low oral language proficiency.
mhm,
And this is as a result of like just a decrease in conversation. You know, a lot of kids don't have conversations with their parents. Like, they don't use vocabulary words that they're practicing at school with their parents. You know, that it's not something they talk about with peers unless we create activities for them to think, pair, share with somebody else. And then now we're going to talk as a group together to practice those things if they're not getting a place to practice. And so for English language arts, the burden for us is helping those that are native English speakers become proficient in English language arts and reading, which many adults are not proficient in English language arts and reading today.
mhm.
They are native English speakers and they are still not proficient. So
Yeah,
we are helping them be proficient and those that are learning English as a second language. And it actually, the ways to reach the both of them are the same, like providing those visuals, giving them every opportunity to practice speaking about it, doing it, you know, thinking about it, talking about it. Language is not, English language arts and reading is not a quiet, none of them should be quiet, but it is the least quiet out of all of the content areas because we have to be practicing. And
mhm.
we just said the word onomatopoeia, everybody repeat onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia. Like, you know, like we need people to be repeating it, what
Yeah,
we said. We're talking about poems and having different groups and they're discussing. And so we want to hear speech practice. And it's very important for our students that are learning English as a second language, so they can hear native English speakers modeling things in their group and whatnot. And then you have those low native English speakers whose oral, and this is not like it's just bad parenting. From COVID, everybody's below oral language proficiency, literally across the board in the entire world, not even just the United States.
yeah,
Right? So because everybody learns via practice, the better we get at speech, the more vocabulary I know, I guarantee you it's because the more people I get to talk to, the more words they use, the more questions I can ask them, the more practice I have. It's all practice, it's all learned. And so while they were under COVID, there has been a noted deficiency in that, not only just in a deficiency, right? There's been no
mhm.
increase, and certainly there might have been a small of a decrease in it. And so for us, our job helps everyone else's. Everyone else's job is reliant on our doing a good job. Social studies, let me tell you, their STAR exams, they're like 100% reading. A little bit of analyzing graphs, that's still us. That's still us, you know. Math, once they get to a certain point, most of it is a word problem. Most of it, and it's reading. Science, guess what? 99% of it, it's a reading exam. Some of it is pictures and identifying graphs. That's still us. So we have a very sort of like big task, right? And that's why the exam is I guess so difficult, but you can sort of strategize for it and go in feeling more confident if you prepare for it in the way that I'm suggesting, like where you do identify, you know, you make your little thing and you put short and choppy sentences and then the two activities that you would utilize to strengthen that weakness. And it should be something that the entire classroom gets benefit from, right? Where like it's an activity, but then they maybe like speak, think, pair, share with each other, and then they go back, because a think, pair, share activity is really so useful as far as English language arts concerned, because typically it is done after you've asked a poignant question that you came up way before you started your lesson, and then they write down a response. That's the written portion of language, and I'm responding to this with my prior knowledge of what went on and hopefully academic language. Then you say, turn to your partner and share. I'm going to turn to you. If I'm an English language learner, this practice is so important for me to utilize this language, practicing writing it down, practicing it, speaking it in a low risk, nobody's going to laugh at me, I'm just with my partner scenario. And it's also not for a grade. And it's an excellent opportunity for them to negotiate meaning, right? So whenever I think, pair, share, and partner people and sit them, I try to be, the kids are your resources, always. If you have a classroom that has 6 special ed and you have like 5 GT and a couple of other really high kids, pair them, think, pair, share with the special ed kids. Why not? Why? The advanced kids will benefit from helping and reinforcing this thing. The idea and the concept, and practicing that. Utilize your resources within the classroom. So that means meticulously creating cooperative learning groups where you're taking into consideration a diverse makeup of language proficiency, of skill level, of disability and ability, of socioeconomic, I mean, just so you can get a plethora of differences and thus a plethora of perspective, right? And you're utilizing all of your resources. So in a careful think, pair, share, I will purposefully put my strong and weak people next to each other. So then when they turn to each other, people can help each other. And, you know, my daughter does that often and I like it. And she'll tell me that when she's partner, she's GT and she's quite smart. And she often is paired with other very smart kids as well, to be helpful and to be a springboard for learning, you know, and a low risk sort of negotiation of meaning, where when the student turns to her and they think, pair, share, it's not like, oh, you're going to get a bad grade and feel bad. Bella's so great and sweet. And she'll say, oh, well, actually, I think it's this and this is why. And then, okay, I got it right. That's good. Now we're both good. Now, when I go back to the whole group, I can say, okay, now I'm going to choose somebody. Now there are 10 to 15 more people who are feeling more confident and excited to answer, because they've already answered it once. I already spoke it over with my friend. They even gave me the answer. I had it wrong to begin with, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, they double checked it.
They're like,
let me double check.
Yeah. So it's a really great opportunity, and I try to throw it in all the time, but also just because for our class, English language arts and reading, speaking is so important. That language negotiation, it's not all of it. Obviously, the reading and the writing is very important, but before, this is cohesive, that listening and speaking, reading and writing doesn't take off like it should. So that investing in opportunities to practice, that language learning, the practicing of new vocabulary and new ideas, very, very important for your students. I like to use Pinterest when we're thinking about like a plan of action. And I'm trying to find one for here, and I'm actually not here. Okay, this is like a super boring way of doing it, but like a example. So you would give them a very like basic sentence, and they would have to elongate it or change it, you know, like to make it not I can paint, I play soccer, I am good at reading. This is more all over the place. And this is a good one. This is a ball. This ball is blue. Look at the ball. So putting those together, sentence combining those. Say, I don't want 4 sentences. There are 4 sentences in these. I want 2 sentences. I want the same information. You take those 4 sentences and give them the 4 main types of essay structures. I'm not essay, sentence structures, right? The 4 main kind that we use. And then have them just play around with it. And the activity that I used was called French fries. And it was like the last one that we saw where it said, it gave 6 to 8 sentences, and it was about French fries. It was a super boring like advertisement. And the students in a group had to consolidate those sentences into like an ad that still had that same idea, sentence combining together. And it was really great activity. And many of the students writing improved with their own, like, obviously they didn't just start writing off on amazing things. Then we had to, after we did that activity, now we said, okay, guys, now take out your essay. Let's look at your introduction. I want for you to find ways to revise and sentence combine inside of your introduction. And then likewise in your body or in your first body paragraph. So not like, now that I've done this activity with sentence combining, you're free to go and you'll sentence combine very fine and well, I'm sure. That's not the way it works. We have to give them like a practice again. And so that practice again with their own writing. And so like that focus systematic, we set sentence combine together with French fries, all fun. Now we're going to do it with our introductions and sentence combine. Like, you know, do you have to you have 6 sentences. I want you to bring it down to 4. Combine some of that stuff together. Use a compound sentence, you know, use a compound sentence, show some flexibility in there. So that's one that I would use for that. Coming up with at least one for each of those common mistakes for beginner writers is going to be key for you, not missing out on time that is precious for your multiple choice exams, which are needed for careful reading, but also give you less anxiety. You know what I'm saying? Less anxiety overall, because it's not like a Russian roulette type thing. Hopefully I know, and hopefully, please God, give me the answers to the questions on the test. Like, no, I know all the answers. So no matter what questions I get, I got it. Then that's how you have to go into it like that. How are you feeling? Do you have any questions for me? Because after today, I'm going to tell them to open it for you.
Oh, no, not yet. No.
Not yet? Okay, well, we can wait.
No. I really want to get.
You don't want to like just get the date, and that way you can solidify a plan of action. I find that when you have like a hard date, like this thing, it's like, here, it's this book or whatever. And it's like, I know it's there, and I'm like, I'm moving close to it. It's not leaving. Like, you know, and then and it doesn't have to be soon. You could do it like, okay, I'm going to do it the first week in January or the second week in January. But that way you can say, okay, there are 12 standards. I'm going to do deep dives, the first 3 standards and corresponding TEKS. The next week, I'm going to do this one and this one. So you're like systematically breaking down and also holding yourself accountable, like to that date, because you can do it. I believe it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, I don't want to take it right now. I want to maybe start again in January, just have like, because the holidays are coming and it's like hectic and stressful, and it's just, and there's been so many changes at work right now. that it's just like nonstop. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. So I'm like, okay, right now it's not the time to take it. I don't even want to take it right now because I don't
Yeah.
want to lose another like chance at it. I'm like, no, I want to just like study as much as I
Do it
can.
thoroughly.
Yeah, like just actually set my mind to like, okay, this is where I need to focus on. And especially the writing, because the multiple choice, once I get the hang of the teaks and the lingo and everything, I'm pretty sure I'll be fine with that. But what I'm really most worried about is the writing part.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like, oh God.
Yeah. And I added a few. Well, these are for the pedagogy.
Yeah.
These aren't for the analysis, but these are for the pedagogy, like you identifying the weakness or whatever, for you to practice
Mhm.
with that. But like I said, the best way to practice, and I've added in here for you in the one of each of the stars and the
Okay.
rationale, which is a really, really good review. It's a good practice test for you if you want
Mhm.
to like practice yourself on English language arts and reading the TEKS
Yeah.
portion of it. All of this is just TEKS. This is an assessment legitimately if the student can do the knowledge and skills that are laid out for them in the TEKS. And so if they have to be able to do it, we have to be able to do it, and we have to be able to critique
Yeah.
and also bring in an activity to support that particular weakness. So several things that we have to do. And each of these comes, and this is something new. They just started it like 3 or 4 years ago, but
Mhm.
providing an answer sheet that actually has rationale to it. Like, so these are
Mhm.
really good. I would utilize them. And there's more than just one. I only
Mhm.
included one for each of the grade levels, but there are like many in each.
Yeah.
There's like 7 of 7th grade, the same amount in 8th, and you know, possibly more with the high school levels. But it is a really good practice for you to go through them, to practice with the lingo, with the skills that they and the concepts that they have to be able to do. And it's an excellent review of the TEKS. And your exam is only made up of your standards,
Mhm.
which are these, and your TEKS. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
The standards and the TEKS. What do you have to know and be able to do? And what does the student have to know and be able to do? And that's what the exam is about. Do you know and can you do the things that you both should be able to do?
Yeah.
So, and if you'll look through these standards, they correlate with the TEKS. So you have oral communication here, listening and speaking skills. There is a whole strand of TEKS in each grade level, kindergarten
Mhm.
through 12th grade, which is with oral language proficiency, with both the listening and the speaking skills. So they go hand in hand, and these are the only 2 documents that the test maker utilizes to make your exam. So it's
Yeah.
really important that you know them very, very well. So so I'm gonna let you go. I didn't realize we had gone over a little bit, but
That's fine.
no, not at all. It's my pleasure. But if you need any help, or if you want me to look at your writing, if you, let's say you want to practice with one of those the AP exams for your literary analysis, like
Okay.
I used to grade for AP, like I grade, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I can grade your paper and tell you like how I would rate you. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
I
so
don't know if you received my test scores. Oh, my contact's clean.
I don't, I believe I did. Sure, I think I did. I think I did. Because the lowest was on the writing, I believe. Right?
Yeah, it really was. That's what I was like, that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, that I do remember actually.
Yeah, because the multiple choice, I know I didn't do too good, but it wasn't too bad that I was like, oh God. It was for sure, it was the writing that I knew that I was like, oi.
So yeah, so you're right. We have a lot of room to, and even here, oral communication and media literacy, it's less than 50%. So that's an area that we definitely need to focus on.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see. literary analysis, the pedagogy one. And see, like the pedagogy is hard if you're not prepared for it. I'm sorry. Like nobody who hasn't taught and or thought about it before their exam, you're not going to have assignments and activities to rectify writing weaknesses off the top of your head. Like literally nobody has that.
Yeah, no, I was like, what do I write? Like,
Right.
I'm trying to think, since like I'm an assistant teacher, so I'm trying to think of what my like the teachers would do. I'm like, what have they done? Like, I'm like, and then the worst, it's not the worst thing, but it's kind of difficult for, well, sort of kind of difficult because I work at the alternative campus. So it's like we have kids in different grade levels in one group, and I'm like, how can I pinpoint just one grade level?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like one assignment to fit all these students. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, it's well for that you would need to like bring in different supports for them so they could all achieve that same objective. Yeah, it's hard, which is why I try to tell anybody who'll listen to me, and especially people who are trying to tell me that the teaching's so easy and that it's blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, you have no idea. Like you literally don't even know what you're talking about. Like, please don't get me started.
I'm not even a teacher yet, and I'm like, no, it's hard. No,
it's hard. You have to know a lot. Our job is so incredibly important. We are dealing with like the future citizens, we're dealing with every other profession in its infancy. We are building up the humans of tomorrow. And if we do it poorly, society fails. And it's not even like yes, it's an important text, but it's also really challenging. These are people who don't come from the same homes. No. They don't have the same backgrounds, the same strengths. I mean, we are accommodating for different levels: language proficiency, skill proficiency, disability, socioeconomic. Like it's like everything. You are a master of a jack of all trades and a master of all also, in my opinion. Teachers are literally the true MVPs of society. So, and English, like I said, English language arts, you are the sort of foundation in making sure everybody else is going to do well. Because if that core is rotten, English language arts and reading, their ability to understand questions, language, figure out, everywhere else will suffer as well. So our job is really important, and what I would like for you to do between now and the next time that we meet is to maybe go through some of those STAR exams and test yourself with that knowledge, and then sort of review that stuff, and maybe try one of the, either one from, it doesn't have to be both. You don't have to do like one literary and one pedagogical essay, but one or the other. So it would be either from the AP site or from the resources folder for you to practice one of the essays, that you have here, identifying the weaknesses and then suggesting, and not only just suggesting it, because you have to spell it out for the raters, right? You don't leave anything up. Say, I am doing this because it will make the student understand the importance of choosing a particular word. Therefore, diction, you know what I'm saying? Like you are connecting the dots and painting the picture to show them, I did this to particularly circumvent this weakness, or to support the student in this area of weakness. This student and all students, right? It's always nice if you could just throw in with everyone. And this will also be very helpful for special ed and ELL, blah, blah, which most of the time it is. So, between now and the next time that we meet, do a couple of these by yourself. I would say do the youngest one, the 7th grade one, and then do the oldest one, the 10th grade level one, and then one of these, and we could take a look at it. I'd love for you to send it to me, and that way I can give you some feedback, and you're going to go in there next time and feel less anxious because you're going to be more prepared, and you're going to go in with like a plan of action, like, oh, I've got this. Like, I'm just gonna go in there smacking people. It's going to be like a kung fu movie. Perfectly choreographed.
Yes, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, sounds good.
Okay, Ms. Rodriguez, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.